Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another Flutter tutorial, and in this video we are going to talk about something really important, and that is state restoration mixin, or what I should say, just state restoration. Okay, mixin is another thing which I'll talk about. So we'll talk about three important things. One is why we need it, second is how Flutter is solving this problem, and third thing is how we can use it in our project. Okay, and as of now I'm using stable channel of Flutter 1.22.4 where you can play with it. It's still in preview. Why it is in preview, I'll just tell you in a few seconds. And another thing is that yeah, because a lot of you requested it, so I'll give you some guide which might a little bit change in the future. I'll also tell you what can change, but overall it will be going to be same whatever I will explain here. So now let's start why we need it and what exactly is state restoration. So if you go to your GitHub, and if you'll see this issue here, instance state not saved when app is killed by OS. This issue was created in 2016, and a lot of Android developer was not using Flutter because of this reason, including me technically, but I was using Flutter anyway. But this was a problem, and there was not direct solution to solve it, but yeah, there was some solution always. But yeah, kind of it took some time for Flutter team to come to a best solution for this, and now it is here. And basically what happens, let's talk about that. So what happens is that let's say when your app goes to background, okay, and your operating system wants to free some resources because you are not using your app anymore, it's in background. So what it can do is it can kill your application, but when it kills your application, it gives you that callback that if you want, you can save some state of your application, which I can restore when the user comes back to your app. And that's what exactly Android does using this on save instant state and on restore instant state. iOS also does the same thing in a different way because there's no activity in iOS. And if you want to play it on Android, what you have to do, you have to enable don't keep activities from developer options. If you want to do the same thing on iOS, so on Android basically you can do it on the operating system level using developer option, and every app will behave like that. But on iOS, as of I know, you can do it just for your own application. So basically you have to write a flag in your info.p list, and you can just perform the same thing just for testing. But I have a better way to test it as well, which I'll tell you in the video. So keep watching, and also subscribe to the channel right now if you're interested in these kind of videos. So yes, so how Flutter is solving it, let's talk about that as well. So I think you got the idea about this entire concept. So once operating system kills your app, then user goes back to your application, everything is lost, and we don't want to lose it, at least some important part, right? So now when I say that this thing is in preview, which means that you can do the restoration part for Android right now. On iOS it is not yet enabled. Okay, so once it is enabled, you will be able to do the same thing for iOS and for other platforms as well, but it is not as of now enabled. Also, I tried master channel recently, like yesterday only, and it was broken for some reason for this particular thing. So I'm gonna just use stable for this. So just to give you an idea, now how Flutter is solving is basically using something called RestorationMixin. Okay, so what it actually does is that there is a restoration bucket where you store all your data in form of key value pair. Okay, there is a restoration ID, which is basically the key, and then what it does is that it takes that bucket and it passes all the serialized data to to the engine, Flutter engine, and then whenever operating system demands for it, then your engine gives back that data to the operating system to restore. And that happens synchronously because otherwise it can go into the deadlock situation. And yeah, those were the challenges majorly when this thing was in development. So yeah, that's one thing. And yeah, this concept is little bit something which you have to understand, but there are three important players which you have to kind of learn. Okay, that's everything you need to know to understand it properly. So the three players are, one is your restoration, or you can say, yeah, restoration manager, which actually manages everything, including all your restoration bucket and how it will be saved on the engine and everything. Second thing is restoration bucket itself. Basically it's nothing but a widget tree kind of structure which starts from your material app and which goes to entire structure, and any child can claim that restoration bucket and add something to that. And the third thing is restorable property. So when you want to save the data, you can only do it using restorable property. You can create your own, or you can use, so this follows the normal standard message codec like integer, string, boolean and all those things. So now how you will use it with Flutter? This is an interesting question. So right now I have this counter application. Obviously this is not the best app to show the demo, but just for the ease of showing, I'll show you the demo and how to test it without using that don't keep activities and all that shit. So yeah, this is the demo as of now. I'll make more videos if you'll be interested. So let's start with this. So as you can see, this is, if I'll press this plus button and if I go to this background mode, okay, and if I come back, this works fine because the app is not yet killed. But what if I want to kill it, right? So yeah, before I do that, right, yeah, let me just show you how to do that as well. So if you will go to settings, you have to go to your about section and you have to press 5 times the build number, and then you will get this developer options, and you will go inside here, just go to the down where app section is there, and you can see don't keep activities, right? If you will enable it, then this background apps will be killed as soon as they go to background by the operating system. So let's not kill it as of now, but let's go to somewhere else, which is the widget test dot. And if we see this test, okay, it is pumping the my app. It is checking if there is only one widget initially which has text as 0, and there should not be any widget which has text as 1, right? Which is correct. When we click on the plus button, it increases the value by 1. So now there is no value as 0, but there is only one widget which has 1. Okay. And if I run this test, this is fine. And this should work, right? And okay, so this worked, right? Now I'll do one small change and this will start failing. Okay. So as soon as the user increment the number, okay, by pressing this plus button, so it goes from 0 to 1, right? And then we pump it, which means we actually call the build method, let's say. Now what I'll do, I'll write one more thing, which is await tester dot restart and restore. I'll tell you what it will do, but before that, let's try to run this and let's see if it will still work. This test will fail, I guess. And yes, it failed. So basically what it did is basically this restart and restore is nothing, but I just kind of enabled this flag, okay, don't keep activities. You can say that. So basically what it is doing, it is restarting your activity, or this is restarting your application and trying to restore the values. And when it is trying to restore the values, so when it is restarting, your counter goes back to 0. But if you see, it is saying 0 should have no widget and 1 should have one widget, right? So one widget should have 1 and 0 is nothing, right? But this is not the case. If you will try that the opposite, let's say 0 should have 1 and 1 should have nothing. Now if you will run this test, this will work. And yes, no, this didn't work. Why this didn't work, bro? Finds one widget. Okay, this, yeah, we will try it again. Okay, now let's we can see on the screen it is 9, and if I go here and if I come back, it is still 9. But let's say if I don't keep this activity, okay, and now if I'll go back, then you can see it is back to 0. So that's what we want to solve. And let me run this test one more time just for the sake of running it. Man, this is not working for some reason. What it is saying actually, let's see that. Okay, maybe oh, why it is failing, let me tell you. This is failing because of it won't be able to understand what this is doing for various reasons. I'll show you, I'll tell you the reason. And yeah, 0 widgets with text 0, nothing. So it is basically crashing, I guess. Yeah, so the current widget tree did not inject the root bucket and all. Okay, so what's happening is it is crashing. So what I'll do, like this for my this my app, I'll show you first of all how to implement this, and then we will come back to this, and then I'll show you why this is not working. And basically this is not able to do anything with this, and that's why it is failing, because it cannot find, you know, root bucket here, because I haven't implemented it, right? So now let's go back to main app, and now you know the problem, right? If you go to background, let's say if I just press this button many times, and if I go to background, come back, I lose the value, right? How to fix it? So first of all, you have to go to your my app, and you have to first of all make something or wrap it with a widget called root restoration scope. Okay, so as of now, when I'm recording this video, this thing is required. Okay, you have to give a restoration ID, let's say root. And why you should give it to material app? So that you know, root should always be on the top level, and you can, because you will claim this bundle. Okay, so what it is doing, actually, let me tell you what this restoration scope is doing. It is actually inserting your restoration bucket. Okay, so that's the purpose of it, and you will claim that bucket at a lot of places, and that's why we are doing it on the material app. And when I say restoration ID as root, and why I'm saying that you won't be needing it anymore in the future, because if you'll go to master branch, or if you'll see in future, this will be added directly to this material app. So now in material app, you will get something called restoration ID, and you can add directly root to that. So this is needed right now for stable, but not for the future. Okay, and once you are done with this, then you will go back to your my home page state, or whatever state class you are in, where you are extending this state class. And now you have to use one mixin, okay, which we call as RestorationMixin. Okay, what it does actually is that it will override two methods first of all. Okay, and let's override those two methods. One is that you have to specify restoration ID. Okay, so as I told you, this the purpose of, what is the purpose of restoration scope? Okay, is basically it will manage, what it will manage is these different restoration IDs. Okay, so how it will do it? So basically these are, when you say restoration scope, okay, this is basically you are creating a namespace, and that namespace is just having all these restoration different IDs, and these IDs you will use to, you know, store your maybe data to restoration bucket. Okay, and you get this another method. Okay, so here what I'll do, this restoration ID, let's say counter test, you can give it any name. Okay, it's basically like shared preferences, where you have a key and you provide a value. So it's the same concept actually. And now in the restore state, this restore state is a method which will call just after init state. So maybe if you have any listeners or as such, you can do it here as well. And here what you have to do, you have to register your property for restoration. So we can just say let's say register for restoration. It takes your property as well as the restoration ID. So we have this counter test, and we are happy with it. And then there is a property which is required. So right now we have this counter as 0. And if you see this property, what it takes is a restorable property. This is the third thing which I mentioned, right? So three things. One was restoration manager, second was the restoration bucket, and third is restorable property. So we don't need this counter, rather we need a restorable property. So this is an integer, so we have already restorable int, bool, double, num, string, even text editing controller, because text field supports it now. So yeah, we have that. And restorable value, if you want to extend your own class or some object, whatever you want to do. And then there is something called restorable listenable for similar things like text editing controller, where you have a listenable. So we will use the restorable int, and I will name it counter, and then I can just say restorable int. Let's give it a default value which is 0 initially. And now this counter plus plus will not work, because this is a restorable int. So I have to write counter dot value wherever I want to access this value. Similarly here also we have to say counter dot value, and that's pretty much we have to do. And rather than property, we can just pass the counter here. this is one thing. Okay, this is saying that some issue happened because we have to restart. One more thing which is left is actually you have to dispose these properties as well. So inside dispose, what I'll do, I'll just say counter dot dispose. Okay, and now if I do a hot restart, so you can see I have plus 7, and if you will see this thing I have is still enabled don't keep activities. Now 7 is, we can see now if I'll go back to application. Okay, this might didn't work for some reason. Let's do a hot restart. Why this is not working, I'll tell you the reason. Because we are using hot reload, and we are like, you know, kind of removing the activity, and with hot reload this problem can happen. So once you run it in release mode, then you will see it is working. I'll do couple of hot restarts so that it can preserve the previous state of the application. Now let's do it one more time. 6 is fine. Go back, come back, and okay, let me run it again maybe, because I'm sure we are doing it all good. So everything is fine. It looks like everything is fine. Let's try to run it again just for the sake of testing it, and yeah, seems like fine. So what we have done is nothing much, but rather than we just replaced our counter with restorable property, and then the same thing like plus and all these things, and then we registered this property. Restoration ID is there. Now let's make it, let's say 10, and let's go back, let's come back, and you can see we got the 10. Okay, why this didn't work last time? Because when you do hot reload, okay, it still have the last state of your application, so you have to either run it in release mode to test it properly. And that's where now our second thing comes into the picture, that is our widget test. Okay, so in my app initially, if you have seen, we didn't have this root restoration scope, right? So that's why this was crashing. Now let's run this again. Okay, and 0 means find nothing, and 1 means find one widget, which is which should fail, right, technically. So if you'll see now, this won't fail because yeah, this is not failing. Why? Even after restarting and restoring, because of we are now saving the state. Okay, that's why it is working now. And why it was not working previously, because yeah, we were kind of trying to use this restart and restore without providing the root bucket, so this was not working. So now even after restarting, basically it is having this one value. That's what it means, right? So this is how you can test it without you know, using don't keep activities, or even for your iOS app or whatever. So this is the best way to test it. Also, when you are using my app, if you are not using this directly like root restoration scope, so if you're using directly my homepage here, then you have to wrap it with the root restoration scope. Okay, so whatever widget you are using here, while pumping it initially, you have to make sure that you are using the root restoration scope, otherwise it won't work, right? So yeah guys, this is how you save it. Now the next question might be, okay, let me give you a brief idea about RestorationMixin, what it is doing. So you can see we have something called Restorable Property, which I told you one of the things. Restoration Manager, which describes how restoration in Flutter works, right? If we go inside this, and scope, again I told you what it does. And if we go inside this, then you can see it's a long you know, kind of a big thing to read, that how everything works, how root bucket works, and standard message codec which we use. So I have gave you the general idea. Now coming back to this thing, like I told you how to do it for a counter, right, for a single like value. But what if you want to store an object, right? Or if you have your own class, so you can pretty much extend two things, either restorable value or restorable listenable, according to your need. So let's take the example of duration class. Okay, so I can do something called restorable duration, which will do nothing but extend restorable value. Okay, this one. And here I can in here I can pass, let's say I want it for duration. Now it will ask me to override few methods, 4 methods. One is what will be the default value. So for duration, let's have a constant duration. with like what when you want duration, you'll just give a duration object, right? Nothing else, with everything as 0. Okay, and what if there will be update in the value? Okay, how we will check it? So what we can do, we can compare the old value. So there are various property in the old value, so you can take any of them. Let's say we are taking the microseconds, or you can use milliseconds, whatever, doesn't matter. And you will check with the current value dot in microseconds. If these are not matching, okay, then you will notify the listeners, which means now it's time to fetch the new values, right? And from primitive and to primitive is nothing, guys, but it's very much similar to from JSON and to JSON, what you must have seen with your model classes. So basically, when we see from primitive, you will return the data what you have, which is actually stored. So you will say something like duration. We are using in microseconds here everywhere, so we can just say data as integer, and this will return this duration. And when we are saying to primitive, it is basically to map values and just return it. Because here is nothing to map, so I'll just say value dot microseconds, something like this. Okay, now what we can do, we can directly use this restorable duration. So I can just use here restorable duration. I can just say duration here, and let's say restorable duration. Okay, I have duration, but this counter showing some issues. What I can, let's replace this, or let's comment it here, and let's say duration dot value. So when I'll click the plus button, okay, I'll change the duration value. That's what it means. So duration value, let's say microseconds, I'll make it 500 when we click on the button. Okay, not before that. And here let's comment it, and let's rate. So why I'm showing you this, because this is how you will create your own custom restorable property. And here again, let's comment it, and let's use something called duration. Okay, duration dot value dot microseconds in microseconds. That should work. Yeah, so all good. Now let's do a hot restart. Let's see. Okay, here also we have to change it. So duration and counter test, let's leave it like this. You can change the name later. So now if you see, we have 0, which means duration, and we are using microseconds. So initially it is 0, because if you remember, the default value is 0. Now let's increase it by clicking this plus. So now it should be 500. Now if I'll go to background, I have don't keep activities enabled yet, and if I come back, yes, I can see 500 still here. So that means it is also working, guys. And okay, this is something, okay, I did a hot reload or something like that. So yeah, this is how it will work. Let's do a hot restart, it should fix. Okay, so yeah, this is how you will use it, and I'll create more videos on it. Let me know in the comments what you feel about it. I know there is a lot of things which needs to cover, and there are many widgets which are already using this RestorationMixin. Let's say, for example, list view, all the scrollable widgets, and Flutter team is adding support to more widgets, like text field also uses this RestorationMixin for text editing controller. So you can check it out how it works. Because it uses restorable listenable. So similarly, like all the widgets will have by default, like as I told you, material app already have restoration ID now in master channel, so you don't need this root restoration scope. And apart from that, on iOS, once it will be enabled, I'll make a video as well for iOS as well, and for web as well in future. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon to get future updates. Also guys, please don't forget that these all codes are available on GitHub. So when you go there, then give it a star, fork the repo maybe just for your future reference. And also, yeah, share this video with your friends, whoever wants to try this thing, which is in preview as of now, but yeah, this can be really useful. And if some Android developer tells you that this is not possible, then just show them this video and tell them that this is now possible. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care.